welcome to Season 6 of How I Made It Through. As I've said before, it is often through pain and suffering that we learn our most profound lessons. It is through courageously exploring the inner landscape of our lives and seeking healing that we transform. Joining me this season is my newest co-host, Bernadette Thompson. Bernadette and I invite you to join us, now twice a week, as we continue to explore the extraordinary stories of those who've had near-death and spiritually transformative experiences, or are simply wise and old souls, sent here to help the collective awaken and heal. Our show reminds us that death of the body does not mean death of the soul, and that indeed we do transition into the wonder of the afterlife and come back again and again and again. Our hope is that each episode will serve as inspiration for your own spiritual discovery. We thank you for joining us in this powerful learning and ask that you subscribe, comment, like, and share. Together, we can spread the growing awareness that we are all infinite souls sent to Earth School at this very unique and miraculous time in human evolution. We are so thrilled that we get our returning guest, Stella Wilde. Welcome, Stella.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again. It's such a pleasure to talk with you both.
Likewise.
Excited that you're here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and read the bio, and then we'll just dive in because there's a lot of exciting stuff to discuss.
Yeah.
Stella Wilde is our cosmic pathfinder, intuitive advisor, and manifestation mentor. Like all those things. So Stella says, I believe in taking charge of your life, of learning all you can about who you are, what your soul plan is, how you can share your gifts with the world, because when you do, life is infinitely more joyful and you waste less time, and time is oh so very precious. And she says a little bit about me, so I'm going to talk like I am her. Not that feels weird. She says she loves analyzing astrology charts and writing horoscopes, tuning into the tarot, studying psychology, interpreting dreams, and traveling both geographically and astrally. Love it. I love it. So here we are with a new world. So much change is happening both on the planet and cosmically. Perhaps it's a good place to start to say, what is happening astrologically right now that feels most significant?
I think it's this Mars retrograde, honestly, this Mars retrograde in Cancer. Mars rules Aries. I wore my Aries red today for y'all. Mars doesn't like to dive into emotional depths, right? Mars just likes to forge ahead. So first of all, he doesn't like being retrograde. And second of all, he doesn't like being in Cancer because Cancer's too emotional, but Mars retrograde in Cancer can be an energy of, standing up for your home, fighting for your beliefs, fighting for your loved ones. I mean, it has its good qualities, but in general, Mars is not too comfortable right now. And because it's fire and because it's in a home sign, right? The Cancer. So we're dealing with issues, with the wildfires. That's quite a literal representation of Mars retrograde in Cancer. But we're dealing with a lot of maybe, internal flames, and which ones are ebbing, which ones are guttering, like, reassessing where our passions and joys really lie. And how do we want to move forward when Mars gets out of the retrograde? What's the emotional fuel that's going to keep us going? So it's a great time to be retrospective, but we can get frustrated with that because so much of our society, right, is outwardly focused. We want to do, achieve. And it's in the beginning of the new year, right? Like everybody's like,
Yeah.
And Mars has been opposite Pluto, which is power struggles, incendiary, getting frustrated, blowing up because we're not able to move forward into our future yet. And Aquarius, where Pluto is the future, right? So, but this is not the time, right? I mean, you can plan for the future, you can regroup, and restructure things and re-examine, but this is not necessarily like, go get them.
God, I feel that so much. So I have a very personal question, and it's vicarious through my husband. He's an Aries, so Mars rules Aries.
Yes.
When Mars goes retrograde, if it's your ruling planet, does it have even more of an impact on you?
Yes. We can be very cranky rams. We
Oh
can
my God.
like
Yes.
because Aries is action oriented. We don't like to be thwarted. We like to and people forget. Everybody thinks it's just Taurus that's very like determined and focused, but it's Aries too. We're a ram. Like we
Yeah,
bang our heads against the wall. Like we're like.
that's right. That's you. Is that you or you were Scorpio?
Who, me?
No, sorry, Stella.
Oh,
So,
I'm an Aries. I'm an
Yep,
Aries sun,
that's what
but
I'm
I have a
saying.
lot of water. I have a lot of
Okay.
water in my chart and a lot of earth. So
Okay.
we always have to
Okay.
look at the full picture, of course, of our charts. But
Right,
yes,
the full picture. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, anytime a ruling planet goes retrograde, it can feel a little more troublesome, a little more exasperating. But thankfully, Mars doesn't go retrograde that often. I feel sorry for the Geminis and Virgos because, ruled by Mercury, that's happening 3 times a year, the retrograde.
Yeah, my son is Virgo. So when does when is it no longer retrograde?
that's us.
February 23rd.
No,
Mars
it's
will be
Already at that.
moving direct. But then
a
there's
long time.
yes, it's too long. Then there's what is called the shadow period,
Yeah.
which is, excuse me, my voice, is more about where does it return to the degree at which it went retrograde. And then we clear that and like you're good to go. Well, if you factor the shadow period in, we got to wait until like what is it, the middle of April before
Holy
Mars will,
cow.
before Mars will actually get back to, I think it was 6 degrees Leo where it was when it went retrograde in December.
So I have a question. So if I'm trying to manifest here. We're at the beginning of 2025. I'm really trying to like raise the roof and go. So is this really bad news for me? Or do
No,
I need? No, it's
not
not.
bad news. It's
Good.
just use the energy and manage your expectations. And in fact, we have a beautiful new moon's Chinese New Year coming up, very exciting, on like a week from now, right? 29th January. And that is a really lovely new moon. So that's a great time for making a vision board at that new moon. But again, be realistic. Maybe don't be taking action on the vision board until the middle of April. But use the Mars retrograde, use the new moon of, re-examining what you want, putting maybe new things on your vision board that you haven't done before because you've actually used the Mars retrograde in Cancer to rethink your emotional direction.
But what if I've done a lot of work on what I'm doing right now. And so what if can this be finishing up? Does it mean when this happens that all of our progress that we've made is stopping?
No, and it depends a lot too on where it's happening in your chart, right? I mean, life goes on, it's just, I think it's important to manage expectations. So if you have Pisces rising, if I'm remembering correctly,
Yeah.
am I remembering correctly?
Good
Okay, so
memory.
if you have Pisces rising, then this more than likely is taking place in your 5th house of love, romance, creativity. So this is a good time for you to go over like old creative ground, old creative projects, tie up loose ends. It's kind of like a little bit of a Mercury retrograde for you, right?
Okay.
To review, re-edit things, clean things up, recalibrate, and make sure that your arrow of desire, as I like to call Mars, is really aligned with what you want to create to move forward with fresh projects in the spring.
And that's actually what I'm doing. So that is good. I'm kind of just moving the arrow a little bit so that it's really headed in the right direction.
Yeah. So it's not that things can't happen during a retrograde, but it's good to use the energy as best we can. And this one is really about getting some internal guidance.
Okay. So I love that.
Yeah, that internal GPS, like really make sure it's what you want, Cancer, and it makes you feel grounded. It makes you feel secure. It makes you feel emotionally fulfilled because we're talking about the moon. The moon rules Cancer, right? So this is like feeling really emotionally grounded in what we want to move forward with.
So the message for all signs, and it was interesting that you focused on her rising, because I have a follow-up question. But if I were listening, and there are all the signs listening, I hear the overarching theme is just be with the energy in a way that is constructive, realizing that it's fertile time to get really connected with, is this what I want? Connect with the vision. Make sure it makes you feel grounded emotionally. Because come April, once that shadow season is kaput, then things can feel like they're more quickly manifesting.
Yes, because we also haven't talked about March yet.
Okay, I want to talk about March before
we can talk about that.
Okay, I'm
that too.
so excited to talk about March, but I'm going to take a selfish moment. What about if you're an Aquarius rising? What does this mean?
Okay, so that Mars would be retrograde in your 6th house more than likely. So this would definitely be regrouping on your well-being, like you going back to the gym.
Back to the gym.
Regrouping on work projects, your daily routines, making sure everything is aligned and fulfilling you. Like you may be making tweaks to your daily schedule, like that type of thing to make sure everything is really, your daily habits and routines are supporting your well-being in all ways, with your work, with your health, just everything.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive into March.
Well, this is the thing, right? If you go by shadow periods, which I sometimes get frustrated with that. I mean, I'm an Aries, right? So I just want it to be over with. So, but so I don't always, I mean, I know they exist. I don't always apply them to my life because I'm impatient. But we get out of Mars retrograde February 23rd. We literally have 1 week of everything's okay, and then March 2nd, Venus goes retrograde.
I love Venus. I don't want it retrograde.
So ruled by Venus as a Taurus and as a Libra, both y'all, right? So that's going to be a major time for you both to really, again, rethink what is important to you, depending on, again, I think your 8th house Libra sun, and then you would be 4th house. So there could be things coming up, 4th house, reviewing home routines, reviewing things with your home finances, redecorating. It's the rewords. Anything retrogrades, the rewords, redecorating, reconfiguring, maybe refurbishing for 4th house, Aquarius rising. And then Bernadette, you may be revisiting old emotional ground to heal it in some way, to release, to cleanse. It's detox time. With the Venus retrograde, and it could be love or money or both, or because since Venus rules that, so could be possible friendships as well. I mean, that's possible too. But so we have 1 week, and then Venus goes retrograde, and then 2 weeks after that we have a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo.
I don't know what that means.
Then so eclipse is big change making energy.
Okay.
In the middle of a Venus retrograde, and then we have Mercury goes retrograde. I want to say the 15th also. I think it's around, I don't have the exact date in my brain, but right around the middle of March, the same time as the eclipse. Then we have another eclipse on March 30th, which is the new moon solar eclipse in Aries.
So is 2025 crazy?
It's crazy. The first 4.5 months are crazy. It's like again, like we were saying, you just want to get started. You want to do all the things.
Yeah.
You're excited. And then it's like, okay. So that's why I think it's important. We have, these 2 eclipses in March. It's eclipse season. And that is a classic energy, depending again where it falls in your chart of there's going to be a letting go, Virgo. It's a south node eclipse. So wherever you have Virgo in your chart, it's going to be something, energetic shift. And then we have the new to begin in Aries, wherever you have in like 9 degrees Aries in your chart. That'll be at the end of March, but we won't take action on that until the middle of April, because this is what I think. I think the universe is really orchestrating a lot of things behind the scenes. And it's interesting that we're having the new moon eclipse in Aries because Mars is retrograde right now, which rules Aries, right? So it's like, you really want to get that clarity, as I was saying before, get that emotional clarity and groundedness before the universe brings some sort of shift in the energy for you in March.
Okay.
You
so
really
March,
get that clarity. Yeah.
Okay. Because then after April, give us some hope, Stella. What's going on with 2025?
I mean, it's good. It's good.
I'm being silly. I know, because all this work is good. It's time to do all the reads. I've never heard that retrograde. That is so genius.
Yeah.
So it's really
Smaller.
important that we do the work. I'm just saying that because I think some of us are like, guns blazing 2025. We're going to make it
Well,
happen.
it will. It will. It's just, we get on these kicks. I do too. Like, yeah, January, I'm all going home. I got my new planner. I'm like ready,
Yes.
but yeah. So, but it is. I think it's very important because we're having these major retrogrades early in the year. And because we're in a 9-year, which is about karmic wrap ups,
Mhm.
it's not that we can't start things this year, but we really want to be darn sure what we are starting, because we can be starting a new karmic cycle, especially with the fact that Saturn's going into Aries at the end of May. And Aries is the new beginnings. Saturn is karma. So there's going to be a whole new karmic contract, cycles, all the things starting. Uranus is going to go into Gemini in July. I mean, this is the birth of new genius things in our lives, awakenings, epiphanies, exciting possibilities. You got to figure it out the first 4.5 months.
Prepared. Really know who you are, what you want, what new beginnings you are saying yes to.
Well,
Yeah.
that's really good information, because it really, if everybody out there is just thinking, okay, what am I, really taking stock in what they're working on, and is this the right direction, or does it need to be, is there an area, a way that you want to go that looks better, or
Yeah,
feels,
recalibrate it to make sure it fits.
yeah, exactly, better word, much better.
Yeah. Because eclipses can really move you in unexpected directions. So being open and being flexible too, and which you can, I think, be more that way, says the girl who has a lot of fixed energy in her chart, but you can be more open and flexible when at least you have a solid emotional grounding in, yeah, that is what I want, or, oh, that kind of sounds good. I'm opening myself up to that, But if you don't do that inner work, how are you going to know that? And then people get mad and they're like blaming the universe, when.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's reminding me, to be honest, it's reminding me back of the beginning of 2020, because the beginning of 2020 was when I left a lot of things behind and just started throwing stuff out there, like, being, just changing. I started my company. I was like, didn't know really what I was going to do with it. And I'm glad I'm not doing that now, that I'm much more settled now. And now I'm just focusing on what I want to do, because if I was back in 2020 and this was all happening, I would be one of those going, I got to figure it out now. I have 4 months to figure out exactly. But so it is, yeah, it's fascinating. It's just fascinating. And I'm glad that I have a little more settledness, and really just honing in and calibrating.
Yeah. And 2020, Jupiter and Saturn conjuncted at I think it was like 1 degree Pluto. I mean 1 degree Aquarius, which is where Pluto is now transiting.
Yeah.
So there's like further development of whatever you did shift and start and committed to in 2020.
I'm wondering for you and so many people who are at the level you are with your astrological awareness, and without getting into politics, but just going, wow, like geopolitically, environmentally, it just feels like there's been an acceleration and so much change, tumult, divisiveness. Like there's a lot of shedding of new skin, a lot of emotion.
Mhm.
Is that something you're tracking astrologically? Does you go, well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense.
Um I'm not surprised at how things have played out. Let's just put it that way. I am not surprised
Okay. All
at
right.
all, honestly.
Interesting.
But we are in the year of the snake, which is starting in a week. So it will be the year to, yes, shed the skins, recalibrate, regroup, and all of that. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting
I mean,
stuff.
I see you like treading lightly. There are so many directions this could go that we want to be aware of, and I want to really honor that for you. So let's get going with May and onward. So we've become more connected with, like, emotionally, I feel grounded. I really feel like I've recalibrated and feel like, yes,
Mhm.
if I'm looking into paving the path, this is aligned for me. Then what do you see in terms of the energies?
I think things are gonna get a little better, honestly, because we have Jupiter, which will be finishing up the transit in Gemini. And it's been retrograde. I think it goes direct again in like I think it's February 4th. Jupiter will go direct again, which is great, because that will be blessings, opportunities, things start rocking and rolling again. So that'll be good.
Good.
So we'll have Jupiter at full steam in May. And then we have Jupiter moving into Cancer, which is its favorite place to be on June 9th. So that's fantastic. There's been all sorts of chatter. I love X. I'm always on X. All sorts of chatter over on X about how there's going to be a baby boom when Jupiter moves into Cancer. So, but fertility of all kinds, right, are again ruled by the moon, right? Cancer. So it's like what gives us joy and happiness? Feed that, plant those seeds, and they will bloom and blossom. I mean, that is such a fantastic transit. I'm very excited about that. And here's a little tip. I was thinking about this actually earlier. So since Cancer rules the moon and Jupiter will be transiting through Cancer it lasts about a year, the transit. Also look to see where is the moon in your chart. Okay, like what house it's in, because that could also be getting blessings from Jupiter. Even though it may not be transiting over your moon, it can very positively shine a positive light on your moon.
And Jupiter's about abundance, expansion, whatever it
Yeah.
touches, it grows.
Yes. It's expansion. It rules Sagittarius, so it rules the 9th house. So it's a house of spirituality and growth and learning and travel and different cultures and just really opening yourself up to the world.
Mhm. All right.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
That
Yeah.
is very exciting. That is very exciting. How far into the future is one able to start seeing the cosmic roadmaps?
You could go into the year 3000 if you wanted to. I mean, like, because there's such a thing called an ephemeris, which is like the bus timetable, so to speak, of the planets and where they are. And they have online ephemerises that you can look at, or you can get the big thick printed books. But yeah, you could plug in with the software nowadays. You just plug in, all right, the year 3000, where on my birthday, even though I won't be here right on this planet in this current incarnation, it might be happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
you can look
fascinating.
backwards, forwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I'm thinking is maybe we could bless a couple of signs, just random signs. Of course, Bernadette and my sign would be included in that. That's one of the perks of being a host. But maybe grab a handful of signs and just talk about the year, if that's okay with you for our
Oh,
listeners.
sure.
Maybe, yeah. So definitely, and for some reason, I always feel drawn to Aquarius more than Taurus, and I don't know why. Aquarius being my rising. Is that?
Yeah. Well,
What are your
because
thoughts on that?
this is interesting too, because I was thinking about this before as well. Your sun is in the 4th house, more
What
than
is it for?
likely.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. I think it is. What
It's
is that again?
it's the house of home and family, but it
Mhm.
is what is called the bottom of your chart, and it is a very private house. And it's supposed to be kept private and protected. So it's really your inner, it's your inner world, like big time, the 4th house. So when you read for Taurus, it may be speaking more to that type of energy,
Makes
like
sense.
what's going on deep within you, than necessarily outward goals and manifestations and other things.
Yeah, because that's what I'm more drawn to is the outward goals and the manifestations.
Yeah.
So does it make sense, Bernadette? And if this is okay with you, Stella, I'm just totally putting you on the spot. If this
Yeah, I can go around the wheel real fast.
whichever
I'm
one
gonna go around the wheel.
all of them, but I mean, maybe just as long as it's including
Yeah, let me
a little
adjust my
Pisces
pillow.
or Libra energy and a little Aquarius or Taurus energy.
Okay, well, we'll just go around the wheel if that's okay with
Yeah,
y'all,
I love it.
real fast. Okay, so we'll start with Aries, of course, because Aries is first. Aries,
as they should be.
Aries have had it really hard. As all the cardinal signs. I mean, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. We've been through a lot of very difficult transits over, since 2008 with Pluto, but Uranus. I mean, so many things. And now Aries gets Saturn and Neptune going into their sign. So Saturn is like, let's get serious. This is like the boot camp of the soul, because Neptune's also arriving. And Neptune is about spirituality and, imagination and all that stuff. So Aries has enormous potential to make new commitments that really align with their spiritual growth that they've gone through in the last 10 years. There's going to be a whole new rebirth of Aries. Big time. But, yeah. Taurus, interesting, because Uranus still in your sign, but not in July. And from July 7th to November 7th, Uranus will go into Gemini. So that'll give you all a breather from that energy, but it will also light up your second house of money and self-worth. So whenever Uranus transits your second house, you've got to, it doesn't mean you can't make money, but money could come in very quickly, unexpectedly, but it can go out that way too. So especially from Uranus will be finally in for good in Gemini in 2026. So, and it'll be in there for 7 years. So those 7 years, again, you just got to kind of keep that in the back of your mind with the money. Gemini can still benefit greatly from Jupiter in their sign, especially after February 4th when Jupiter goes direct again. So there can be gifts, goodies, bonuses, benefits, exciting things happening. And then Gemini is in a good position because Jupiter will go into their second house of money in June. Nice. So that's very, very nice for them. So there could be new opportunities, opportunities to expand and to feel really good. But it's more an energy too, they got to step into it. They've really got to yes, Jupiter can just bring things, but it's you want to step into it too, because also the North Node is in their 10th house of career. So Geminis, if they expand and grow, can have enormous potential in 2025. It's not just I'm just going to hang out. It's really get that energy flowing. Cancers can have a great year after June, because of course Jupiter going into their sign, and Pluto's finally exited their 7th house of other people, so they may breathe a sigh of relief. It could be a great year for them. Again, getting out of a comfort zone, North Node in their 9th house, expand, grow, and especially with Jupiter in their own sign. So let's see where we're at. We're at Leo. I think Leo's going to really pick up steam at the end of April into May and June as Mars gets into their sign again, where it went retrograde back in December. So finally they can, make forward progress on their goals. Maybe something they did start back in, October, November, the fall of 2024. If they started something and then it kind of petered out or lost steam or something happened, they can kind of bring it back. And they have, what else do they have going on? North Node in their 8th house of transformation. So again, a year of really stepping into a lot of personal growth and not being afraid to change. Leo is a fixed energy. So they gotta step into that. See where we at. Virgo. Okay. Virgo. It's the birth of Virgo 2.0. South Node going through Virgo. It is time to release, any tendencies toward analysis paralysis, perfectionism, the classic, not every Virgo has that, but they are classic Virgo traits. Release all that kind of stuff and trust the universe and trust that new people are coming in. Of course, vet them. But North Node opposite their sign, there can be some really beautiful new connections coming in, but it's a lot about trusting that and not getting themselves tied up in a knot with it and then pushing it away. That's going to be the lesson, a big lesson, I think, for them with the South Node going through their sign. There could be some really lovely new connections for Virgo, also with Jupiter in their 11th house of networks and connections. So it could be very nice. Libras, what do we have going on for Libras? Okay, Libras, North Node in 6th house of work and well-being. So it could be new work opportunities, new health regimens, like just kind of rebuilding, especially after the South Node having been through Libra sign for the last year and a half. That's finally done. So it's kind of like regrouping, rebuilding. And then there could be some interesting, again, new committed partnerships, whether business or personal, with Saturn going into Aries, the opposite, the 7th house, and Neptune as well. So they could, again, have a spiritual component, a philosophical component, something like that. But that would happen more, I think, over the summer. Okay, so not right at the moment. Scorpio, I think, is going to be relieved to have Uranus out of their 7th house of other people. And, you know, people coming in and then leaving just as fast, and like lots of tumultuous energy experience with Uranus in their 7th house of partnerships. So that will end when Uranus goes into Gemini. And Scorpio has great energy for creativity this year with the North Node in their 5th house. So it's absolutely time for them to invest in you know, any type of creative projects, whether that's new furry friends, new children in their lives, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, creative writing projects. I mean, whatever gives them pleasure and joy, and having new adventures with that. Sag, let's see what's happening with Sagittarius. The big focus, I think, for Sagittarius is going to be that North Node in their 4th house. And the South Node in their 10th house of career. So kind of rebalancing home and career situations. Sagittarius tends to be, again, we're speaking in general here, but not necessarily homebodies unless they have some other influence in their chart. They're more like, let's go out and explore the world, you know, ruled by Jupiter. But there's going to be a need with the North Node in the 4th house for them to really ground themselves, create a sanctuary, and maybe put a little less emphasis on career. Doesn't mean they can't have a career or success, but it's also, there could be something going on at home really to draw their attention. Possibly something with children, only because Saturn's going to go in their 5th house of children at the end of May. So there could be a need to kind of to be more present in, you know, a young person's life. That's possible. Or more present to creating some sort of creative atmosphere at home to help fuel their creative life and their inner world. Because again, 4th house is your inner world as well. So that's another possibility. Capricorn, Pluto in the 2nd house. So it's going to be a lot about making that money. For Capricorn, Capricorn may have some interesting opportunities coming up in the next 2 years, starting at the end of May, when Saturn and Neptune go into their 4th house. So they could find, especially over the next 2 years, some sort of soul home, like their spiritual home, okay, like a place that just speaks to their soul, if they're not happy with where they're living right now. But again, with that 4th house emphasis, it can be that they're just going to be much more grounded and connected with their spirituality and their inner world. And that's going to infuse how they transform their money house, the Aquarius, because Saturn and Neptune this year will be, when it goes into early Aries, will be sextile Pluto, which is favorable support with Pluto and Aquarius. So Capricorn, I think, needs to bring a little bit more of their spiritually grounded energy into creating their coin. And again, it's not that Capricorns are not spiritual. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like they have that energy, like bring more of that into what they're trying to manifest and do. Aquarius, of course, Pluto in Aquarius. We're just getting started with that. But you're going to pick up amazing support when Pluto and Uranus are trine, favorable alignment July through November. So especially people with early Aquarius, but I mean, it doesn't matter. Lots of, ways to transform with kind of lightning fast epiphanies and awakenings. like there could be like kind of like split second decisions that you may not even like know, like, what the heck am I doing? Right. You could be like, why am I doing that? And it turns out to be like a brilliant genius move of what you decide, like just on the spur of the moment. That's that Uranian influence in your 5th house, especially if it's something that is just you're following your bliss. You're just like, yeah, that kind of intrigues me. Let me just see what that is. And next thing you know, like you're booking a flight to wherever, and you're like, and then you run into somebody who's like your next huge business contact or whatever. It's like something like that, right? So really being open from July to November, Aquarius, to like just amazing synchronicities by following your bliss, I think is really key. And then Pisces, let's see, Pisces, wow. Big year, of course, with the North Node in the sign. Also, we have this huge stellium collection of energy in March, right, Bobo? The end of March in Pisces. There's the North Node, Saturn, Neptune, the the new moon. I mean, the moon. We have like this huge collection of energy. So but we are going to be affected by, of course, the Virgo eclipse in March. So Pisces is moving toward a whole new destiny. And if somebody, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if some sort of association changes or is eclipsed out, it's really because it was not healthy for them. And they should trust their path and where they're being led to. And really tune in with their spiritual energy, the spiritual commitments they have made to themselves with Saturn in their sign for the last, 2.5 years. They've been in that boot camp of, I gotta buckle down here, So I think for those who have done that work that Saturn's been requiring and demanding, that's Saturn. There could be some amazing rewards happening for Pisces, especially I think in March with that cluster of energy and, and real deep spiritual epiphanies, guidance, and moving in whole new directions. And they're ready for them. That's the other thing. I just, I love Pisces energy. Pisces, you're ready. Okay. You're ready. You're ready for this.
Does that include when your moon and your rising is Pisces?
Yes.
Heck yeah.
Because that's me.
Because she's describing, I mean, I know Bernadette pretty well at this point. I'm like, you could just have like her as the poster child for everything that you just said.
Yeah. But there may be a shift with some sort of connection, or if it's not a literal connection, it could be in the way, you're receiving people into your life. Like, because Saturn, of course, has kind of demanded better standards. Let's just put it that way. Like, that's Saturn. So, there's better boundaries and standards. So if somebody's coming in and, with that South Node Virgo eclipse, you're just shutting the door. Doesn't have to be dramatic or hurtful or anything. It just be no, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I mean, I'm just sitting here. I mean, it's almost like a different language, right? Like the fact that you can just off the cuff go through every astrological sign and to the detail that you do. It's just astounding.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Well, you have to remember too, I've been writing the book. The book is done. I mean, it's kind of like,
fresh.
Yeah, it is fresh. It is fresh.
But it's still amazing information. And as somebody who never, I didn't get into astrology till very late in the game. Literally, it was, other than looking up what my little horoscope was, it wasn't until 2017 that and so, but now it's just fascinating. And it just, you were just describing you just doing on Capricorn, and my son is in Capricorn. And so I'm thinking of him the entire time. And when you were saying Cancer, my Cancer and Leo are where my daughters are. And so it was just amazing to see them through that light, that even though it's just a little encapsulated, a couple of minutes, it's just an amazing understanding of us being in this universe.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I want to get big picture again, because what I trust is that what you just gave was a gift to so many people as they're having these light bulb moments or having some insight or awareness of the energy as they care for themselves and their goals and dreams and emotional life. I want to get back to the overall, the collective, because that's so fascinating to me to be able to look. And that's why I asked about the future. And when I was thinking about the future, is also the past. And that you, like Bernadette and I, fully trust that we've had multiple lifetimes and that there are all these different times
Mhm.
in history that ideally are elevating us if we heed the call. What is this time really about if you were looking at the next, say, 2, 3 years?
Well,
Say it like it is.
well, we are in one of the most insane times. I mean, honestly, with like with the rapid acceleration of technology, which I know we talked about a little bit last time, but I mean, we're having in 1 year changes that used to take 20 and 30 and 50 years to make. Like and that's really kind of hard to wrap your brain around.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting. I do think there's going to continue to be this kind of splitting or bifurcation between those who are kind of moving toward the future. And again, it's no right or wrong, but those who are more, accelerated on that, and then other people who are like, slow down. Let me get back to the earth, back to the nature. And again, these are not right or wrong or anything like that, but I think we're going to start seeing that. It's already evident, but I think we're going to start seeing that even more.
That's interesting. Well, you just said getting back to nature as part of the slowing down, because I feel nature is such a part of my spiritual, that they are on this spiritual journey with me, that it's part of, truly a part of the creation. It's hard to even put it into words, but I think of it as so spiritual to me. But I also feel like I'm one of the ones that's, ready to go. I'm not putting the brakes on. So it was just interesting.
Yeah. But I think that's a lot of societies like that. It's like they can't hold two different things. It's like either or, which I don't think is a good thing personally. I always ascribe to the middle way. The middle way is best. So, but that's what I think the split will continue in terms of this societal thing. And so we'll see how that plays out. But I think, yes, I agree with you, Bernadette. Both can coexist.
Yeah.
So this might be a naive thing to say. It's because I just know enough to be dangerous about astrology, but not enough to really know what I'm talking about. So 2020, it's sort of like I would hear it's sort of the, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And with Pluto and Aquarius, there's all of this acceleration, to your point, of ideas and new ways of being, and just this fast world of the mind and of the imagination. Is that, let me try to get this. And we also hear from the spiritual communities, this is the time of reset, awakening, people recognizing that there's far more than meets the eye. What are your thoughts after there she is, or he is. So cute.
That's Bobo.
Bobo. What are your thoughts about how those two are playing out, if in fact you feel like they are?
What do you think?
He's
a
so
Taurus.
dignified. A
He
Taurus.
probably knows.
Well, I think, give things a chance. Sometimes I get frustrated because, what happened in the past isn't necessarily a predictor of what is going to happen now. Like, okay, yes, I think it's important to see historical threads. I think that is important. Like, I believe Uranus was in Gemini during World War II. And there's, some people in the astrology community on X, and I'm not calling anybody out, but I mean, because I don't really know any of those people, but I mean, I see posts a lot. Oh, there's going to be a war. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. Like, why are we putting that in the universe based on a previous transit?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that really answers the question, but
Well, to the extent that it's saying, let's, past is precedent, let's look at themes, and I can see the temptation that people would say, okay, another Holocaust is coming. You're like, whoa, slow your roll. This is not predictive. But what I'm saying is that I feel like with all this energy in Aquarius, and so many people in the spiritual community saying this is a time of awakening and resetting, do you see that when
if
you?
people are open to that, sorry to interrupt you, Kristin, but yeah, if people are open to that, because some people are not open to that. They just want the fairy stories.
Yeah.
They want to put their head in the sand or whatever, and that's their prerogative, as Brittany would say. Like, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But so I think it, I think it depends. I think it depends, but it's also too, it's like there are different vibrational levels of the energy of each sign, as an example, right? If you take Scorpio, right, there's like, what is it? The Scorpion, the Eagle, and then the Phoenix. I think that's the way it goes. So there's like the lower vibration of any sign, right? The lower vibration of the vengeful Scorpio with the stinging tail, and I'm going to take you out at the, littlest hurt, and I'm going to be vengeful and a jerk. And then there's the Eagle, which, okay, I can see the bigger picture, and all right, whatever. And I won't use my stinger this time, I guess. And then there's the Phoenix, where, okay, I'm going to take all this and transmute it and use it as fuel and rise above. So, I mean, we have these different levels of how the energy can manifest, how we choose to use the energy and use it to manifest, etc.
That's really powerful. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah. I agree. I was just thinking that the knowledge that you have, and sharing it, and even as you're saying, it's all a piece of it. But that there's so much knowledge and information that is really important to learn about, and because we are a part of this universe, and understanding. I mean, our ancestors, ancestral healing is one of the things that I've done. Our ancestors spent their lives looking at the stars and watching all of this, and living their lives based on what the stars were telling them. And we've kind of left that. So I just feel like your knowledge is so special, because it gives us some grounding about really who we are, and how that what's going on around us, the energy, because it's all energy.
Yeah. Thank you. I was just thinking while you were talking about how it's very interesting to see that certain astrological signs, signatures, energies repeat in families. Also, like, you may find that, like in my family, my father had a Virgo moon, my sister is a Virgo rising. I have a packed Virgo house. I have a huge stellium in Virgo. I think my grandmother, so my father's mother, also had strong Virgo. So it's interesting to see that. And what does that tell us too? Like the ancestral lines and clearing and healing, and what's being carried down from generations.
Yes.
And astrology is another way to kind of think about that too.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. The only thing is we don't have the times of the births back then. We can often get the day and the where they were born, but getting the times is a challenge.
Yes. Yeah. My aunt found a book that my grandmother had written in for my birth time, and it was wildly different than what I had thought. And I thought, oh my God, what am I? I'm a Virgo rising now? Like, am I really? Like, I really had a moment. I was shook. I really was shook. It changed my whole perspective. Not that that's a bad thing or anything, but I was like,
it's a little destabilizing when you're thinking one thing for so many years. I had to go, wait a second, who am I? That's interesting. Both of my parents are Pisces, and then they're two Tauruses. So okay. So final question, because we're up on time. And again, I'm lobbing these over to you, and you can say no, thank you. But my understanding is even countries have birth dates. So July 4th, 1776, right? And does that mean that is the United States a Cancer, so to speak?
Yes. And I believe we have an Aquarius moon, but it does depend on which chart you're using. there's different charts. There's like, I think 3 or 4 different charts. So there's like one that most people use, but then there's been other ones that have been proposed as perhaps more accurate. So
Okay. All right. So with the chart you use with Cancer with an Aquarius moon, what is on the forecast for the
well,
United
I have not extensively studied the United States
Fair
horoscope,
enough.
but
Fair
I
Okay.
will say that it is very interesting and very valuable to see if you can get the information where you're living and what is the birth date of the place. Look it up as best you can. I mean, obviously we may not have the time, but and see where the moon is, see what the sun is, and you can use noon as a birth date. That's what we usually do if you don't have an actual birth time, and just kind of get a sense of how your own chart interacts with the chart of where you're living.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, you can use astrocartography too. You can generate what's called an astrocartography map where they'll have the lines drawn on the whole map of the world. And you can see, well, where's my sun line? Where's my Venus line? And, those are usually good places to be living. But, you can also figure it out. Like when I was living in North Carolina for 20 years, that is a Scorpio state. And I have a Scorpio moon. So I felt very at home there.
Gosh,
I was
that's
like, and
fascinating.
the city I was living is a Pisces, and my Venus is in Pisces.
You just opened up so much there, and I've been aware that there's astrocartography, but it's just really making sure, am I in the right place?
Mhm.
To really
Mhm.
There's so many things to think about. Okay, as we go, as we transition to saying goodbye for this episode, we want to make sure everyone knows how to find you. And you've got this new book, and everyone, please like, share, subscribe, share your thoughts on what you're hearing. But how do they access you?
Yes. So thank you. You can find me at Stella Wilde with an E on the end.com. My new book for 2025 is out. It is called Perfect Timing. It's on my website. It's 165 pages. All the signs are in one book. I touch on a lot of the themes we touched on here today, but I also give a monthly breakdown of the key transits, not all of them, but the most important ones, and kind of like a checklist. You can print it out and you can follow along. So every month you have kind of a guideline of what the energies are happening with a little explanation. So, oh, this means that the Mercury retrogrades, the Jupiter, Uranus, the 9-year, all of those types of things in the book. So
Extraordinary.
Yes.
Amazing.
yes. And of course I'm on YouTube as well
Which is where I
Stella
found
Wilde.
you, and it's so good.
Yes.
So good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stella, you're wonderful. Really, it's so fun to have you, just to hear all of this. And but it's fun just with your personality, but the knowledge you're sharing, this is real knowledge, and I'm grateful for what you've shared with us today.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
How I Made It Through is produced and distributed by EIQ Media, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on overcoming adversity, leadership, mental health, entrepreneurship, spiritually transformative experiences, and more.